ま、そんな罰なんかなくても、自分と血族が伝えた魔術のために、目撃者は消さないといけないんだけど。
And that was the end of the first part of the lecture. Aoka paused for a moment. Soujuuro was doing his best to process the information.
次行くけど、いい？
いいけど、その前に確認したい。
I mean, you don't need to understand
This is like
that
one of
much.
those tutorial prompts. Like she's giving him the whole like tutorial. She's
Yeah.
like, "Do you need to hear the information again?" Yes, no.
Yeah.
魔術師が正体を隠すのは自分のためじゃなく魔術のためだったけど、最近では自分の正体を隠すことの方が重要になっている。そしてその決まりを破ると教会というところからお咎めが来る。つまり青崎たちもその教会に入っているのか？
いいえ、私たちはフリーよ。一応教会とつながりはあるけどね。
The problem is, even if you're not a member of the association, you better obey its rules or they'll kill you.
Yeah, the problem is association's powerful enough to, fuck you, even if you're not a member.
単純に、教会は最大勢力ってだけ。連中は頼まれもしないのに、魔術世界全体の秩序を守
I
ってる。
swear, they're like the US of magic.
Yeah.
だ
Kinda.
から私たちが何であれ、彼らとの関わりがないにしても、魔術師としての決まりを破ったら罰しに来るわ。
わかった。大体飲み込めた。
よしよし。そうやって自分に必要な部分だけ手に入れなさい。じゃ、次は魔術について。と言っても、私自身語れるほど学んでいないんだけどね。
ん？
ごめん、こっちの話だから忘れて。さっきも言ったけど、現代において魔術は無意味なものになりつつある。ライターのない大昔なら火を起こせればそれは魔術として成り立つわ。けど今は何かと便利でしょ。あなたならよくわかると思うけど。
Yeah, I guess he is a good person to explain that to.
So, thousands of years ago, people that were able to light fires were mages, and then somebody figured out gasoline.
Well,
And suddenly, nobody with fire magic was a mage anymore. They were just a
well,
fancy
the act
person
of
with a
making
lighter.
fire seemed mystical, you know?
Soujuuro nodded with a glum look on his face.
Yeah, he knows how convenient modern life is.
He had been made painfully aware of such conveniences. Difficult tasks that would occupy an entire day of work in the mountains could be performed easily here.
And all the skills you learned seem kind of useless now, doesn't it?
For him, having been brought up in the mountains without electricity or running water, city life was, by definition, magic. He only wished it wouldn't be such backbreaking work to adapt to said conveniences.
あ、でも道具を使わずに火を起こせるのは神様の仕事だと思うけど。
Wow. That's the
そのた
traditional
め
way,
に積
though,
み重
huh?
ねた手間は火炎放射器を手に入れるより面倒だとしても。
Why would we need a god when we have a flamethrower, Soujuuro?
Well, he said without tools.
Soujuuro wasn't sure how to answer Aoko. It would have been easy for him to ask Aoko how much accumulated effort she thought it had taken humans to imitate those gods, but he knew it would come across as an insult.
さっきのを見る限り、魔術ってのは何でもできると思ったけど、それは誤解なのか。
Well, I mean, magecraft can technically do anything if you can dump enough energy into it. It's
Well,
just that...
anything that can happen in the natural world, anyway.
He glanced at the glass bottle on the table. Mentally, he sighed in relief. He still hadn't come to terms with the fact that he'd been trapped inside that tiny thing. However...
あら、それこそ誤解よ。万能じゃなければ誰が魔術なんて学ぶと思ってるの？
Aoko puffed out her chest as she chided him.
手間暇かかるけど魔術にできないことはないわ。
There's nothing magecraft can't do. Assuming that you have enough energy to pour into it. But, you know, we can only do magecrafts as big as our magic circuits and allowance of prana will allow, so, like...
Well, you can
You
just get more
know,
mages together to pool energy, so...
Right, but some stuff is
Yeah.
gonna be so high level that
It's
even
a little
like,
unrealistic.
like, I don't know, resurrecting every dead person on the planet. Like, technically Magecraft could do it, but Jesus Christ, the amount of energy you'd need.
中にはできていないけどできているように見せるみたいな何らかのイカサマはあるけどね。この世界に生まれた以上、その許容範囲でできないことなんてないの。
Yeah,
そこ
within
で
the
魔法
world's
が出てくるんだ
limits.
けど、それはまた改めて。
Except some of us can even do that.
You're
Wink,
right.
wink, nudge,
Some
nudge.
of us can even do that crazy impossible stuff.
私が言いたかったのは、魔術は奇跡を起こしているのではなくて、その過程が奇跡だってこと。結果が奇跡になるのは魔法の方なの。
And there's like, I don't know, 5 of them?
Yeah, we don't know the details about them all yet.
How many are, like, how many
There's
are,
5 known magics.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do we have like a definitive number, like canon number of how many there are, even though we don't know about all of them?
5 currently.
Yeah. But theoretically,
There's an infinite number of undiscovered true magics.
Theoretically, there's still room for Nasu to later on be like, it's the 6th magic!
Yep, if we ever think of another miracle.
偉大な魔術師っていうのは、個人の魔術だけで旅客機飛ばしたりする人のこと。
Which is really a smarter way to do it than for them to come out and be like, there are 10 true magics. These are the 5 that we have discussed. There are 5 more. We haven't brought them up yet, but like, they exist.
Yeah.
Like, because that limits you. That's like, okay, well, we can only ever discuss 10 of them, and then we're fucked. Whereas if you're just like, yeah, true magic's a thing. Here's 5 of them.
Yeah.
We've numbered them 1 through 5, just for your convenience. However, I don't know. There might be more. Fuck you.
Yeah. I know a thing on the wiki, Merlin mentioned that what he suspects the last great true magic will be is the miracle that can make everyone happy, essentially. Which will probably be the last thing discovered before humanity kind of fades away and reaches its conclusion.
So, it'll be Artoria coming back from Avalon?
It would be something like that, yeah. The second coming that brings all things to a happy conclusion.
対して偉大な魔法使いっていうのは、今不可能なことを可能にする人のことよ。
If only he'd said what magic number that was gonna be. It'll be like the 93rd magic.
Yeah. No, yeah. There's no date on that ending.
そういった意味じゃ、私たちは最後の魔法使いになるかもしれないけどね。
Like I said, putting a hard number limit on things makes things complicated. Doctor Who ran into that back in like 2013.
Did they? What numbers did they have?
So, I think it was in the classic series at some point. They'd mentioned, there was like an offhanded mention of there being like a total of 13 regenerations in a cycle.
Oh.
And so when we're getting into like 2013 or so, we'd had 7 doctors in the classic era, the TV movie Doctor, 8th Doctor, in like 97 or whatever. Then the new series picked up in 2005 with the 9th Doctor, and the 10th Doctor, and we were currently on the 11th Doctor at the time.
Okay.
But then, they knew they had like 2 more to work with. But then, the showrunner at the time was like, wait, actually, didn't 10 like regenerate into himself that one time?
Oh, jeez.
So, that's technically 12.
Uh-oh. The next one's the last.
And then they wanted to do like a... Well, then the problem was the 50th anniversary was that year.
Oh, jeez, yep.
So they're like, we want to do a multi-doctor story. Let's see if we can get all the modern boys back together. And Eccleston was like, nah, man, I don't want to be part of it. And they're like, damn it, we were planning on 3 doctors. So they introduced a new doctor, who was played by John Hurt, the legendary John Hurt. But he was a regeneration that we just hadn't spoken of ever between the 8th Doctor and the 9th Doctor.
Okay.
Which made 11 actually 13, and the last one of the cycle. Which meant that the end of that storyline was them figuring out how to like get more regeneration cycles, only to then be told like a couple times later that it didn't fucking matter because the Doctor doesn't actually obey Time Lord rules anyways.
So they just had to retcon a bunch of stuff.
Also, apparently there was like an uncountably high number of incarnations of the Doctor before the first Doctor that we just don't know about.
Wow.
And also, Yeah.
That's a little bit of a mess.
Chibnall kind of fucked shit up really hard with
man.
Jodie Whittaker's doctor and just going completely off the walls. So.
Well,
yeah, it's
that's why you shouldn't write yourself into a corner,
脱
folks.
線してるわよ、青子。
Don't put hard limits on things. It makes things problems.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to literally end the story, unless you're planning a definitive end of the story once
Right,
you run
yeah.
out of those numbers, which of course they weren't. It was just like, at the time, they're like, ha, ha, that's funny. We'll never hit 13.
Yeah, they
Alice-
weren't even thinking
lol.
about it.
Alice had been quietly listening until she muttered her rebuke, as if Alco had crossed a
そこ
line.
まで教える必要はないでしょう。しずきくんに教えるべきことは、私たちと暮らす上で危険になる
I
こと
mean,
だ
you
けじゃなか
get
っ
to
た。
that. It's fine.
悪かったわ。ちょい口滑らせた。ともかく魔術師っていうのは暇さえあれば魔術の実験をしてる連中で、自分の家系が伝えてきた秘技を守るためなら
Right.
鬼でも悪魔にでもなる。
Like, you might have some family that is like really, really good at gem magecraft, and they don't want some upstart Japanese hicks to steal their magic and teach it to some uncultured swine.
Yeah. Yeah, they'd be pretty pissed if that happened.
I do kind of wonder. There is a part of me after Samurai Remnant that wonders if the Edelfelts might have gotten their gem magecraft off of the book.
Oh, well, I'm guessing.
Because, like, he just randomly taught gem magecraft
Yeah,
to,
I'm
to
guessing-
Iori, even though Iori was shit at it.
I'm guessing, yeah, he's probably a book from the Edelfelts that made its way over to Japan. But we do know how the Tosaka got gem magecraft. Do you remember that story?
I think so.
The two sisters that were part of the Third Grail War.
Yeah.
One of them lived and married into the Tosaka family.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Rin and Luffy are all like distant cousins.
必然そのアジト
Make sure you
工
remind
房って
them
言う
of
んだ
that.
けど
Yeah.
工房も魔術的な機構が積み重なって要塞みたいになっちゃうのよ。
An
秘技を
odd
守るため
face
に
for explaining
入っ
that.
てきた相手を問答無用で叩きのめす仕掛けとか。この洋館もそういった工房と同じなの。
There's death traps, huh?
不用心に歩き回ってさっきみたいなことになったら私でも助けてあげられないから暗闇には気をつけなさい。気がついたら鏡の中にいるとか本気であるから。
And the unfortunate thing is, since you're not a mage, you basically just have to navigate them in order to come home.
Yeah.
It's like Dan Angel, like you get home and
Oh, yeah.
they've set up like this ridiculous parkour obstacle course for you to clear before you're allowed in your front door.
Yeah.
Soujuuro so hoped they would provide him with a general idea of what to watch out for, but he passed, knowing that he was unlikely to get a straight answer.
枝葉から入っちゃったけど、要は私たちのプライベートに関わるなってこと。いくら最後には記憶を消すって言っても、それを見られた段階で消すしかないものもあるから。
Like
Right.
either of us naked, for one thing.
Pretty much, yeah. That seems to be the implied threat there.
なるほど。この中にもルールがあることはよくわかった。他に注意すべ
Yeah,
き
he
ことも
understands, like, the law of the jungle, like, do what you have to do or you die if you set foot on a line, but... Oh.
His eyes wandered as he trailed off mid-sentence, pondering. He understood that the mansion was more dangerous than outside and that magecraft needed to stay secret, but the explanation seemed to contradict his current problem. For starters, how had he managed to witness something that they took such pains to keep hidden?
すまない。話の腰を折るんだけど、いいかな。
Are you about to touch a nerve?
No,
For
he's...
Alice, specifically.
Hang on. Why am I here? How did any of this happen?
魔術師は教会という組織で結ばれてるんだろ。なら、どうして青崎
Oh,
はあ
yeah,
んな
that.
人形に襲われたんだ？
Just because we are all part of the same government doesn't mean that we're all friends. Like, look at it this way. There's wolves, and the wolves have a pack leader. The wolves all do what the pack leader tells them to, but that doesn't mean two wolves within the pack aren't going to attack each other if they want the same piece of steak.
Eh.
あれの持ち主が魔術師なら、君たちは味方同士で争っていることになる。何か説明が不足していないか？
それは最後にしようと思ってたのよ。
Oh.
I'm getting to it. Shut up.
普通はここまでの話だけで眉唾ものっていうか笑い飛ばすっていうか、いくら経験済みだからって魔術なんてもんをあっさり受け入れるなんてできないっていうか。
I assume that's just what the city's like.
I mean, you know you're dealing with a guy who's just, like, completely out of his depth here. He barely understood running water before a few weeks ago.
Well, I mean, you understood the concept. They have rivers in the mountains.
Well, yeah, okay, but, like, piped water.
Aoko scratched her head as though troubled by how Soujuuro could take every word at face value. Across from her, Alice's face betrayed no expression, but she shared the same opinion.
おかしいのかそれ。
おかしいわよ。そもそもあんたは第一ステップから変だった。普通は驚いたり怖がったり無視したりするものなのに。
I mean, a normal
どうして
city
魔法使いだ
person.
なんて言った私を信じたの？
I don't understand why this country hick from nowhere just automatically believes me when I say I do magic.
Well, I mean, my village had a shaman, so I figured, you know, hey, it can't be that different.
In retrospect, this question should have been posed at the House of Mirrors. Back then, though, Soujuuro was surprised by seeing the phenomenon of magecraft for the first time. He showed no surprise or discomfort toward Aoko, the mage wielding it. Feeling the probing stares of the two girls, the two mages, made Soujuuro feel uneasy. From where he was standing, their suspicion was suspicious in and of itself. And he was suspicious of their suspicion of his non-suspicion.
Yeah.
Which was more suspicious than anything else.
なんでも何もない。青崎、山ではね、あるものはあるのが当たり前なんだよ。
Listen, if we saw a pink-colored wolf in the mountains, we didn't ask why the wolf was pink, we just assumed it was a pink wolf that we'd never seen before.
Right.
理由をつけられるだけの知識がなかったからにしても、実際に見たものを信じないなんてことはないんだ。それに君も言ったろ。あなたにとっては魔法もライターも同じものなんだろうって。
Though they weren't really the same to him anymore, he added quietly before shutting up.
Yeah.
What he said about those innocent days in the mountains had come from the heart, and the words resonated with not only Aoko Ozaki but also Alice Kuonji. It was something everyone should have, principles to stand by. Indeed, to this boy, those words were an unshakable truth.
あるものはあるか。
She was impressed, if only slightly. If this boy, no matter how much of an outlier he was, could accept the things around him, he'd be able to get through this just fine.
そうね。宗十郎はそうなのよね。
Yeah, hey, speaking of which, why are you just using my first name now?
Don't question it.
簡単に信じてもらえることが信じられないなんて私たちの方がどうかしてたわ。
Much like when Aoko met Soujuuro for the first time. In that classroom on his first day, Soujuuro took everything that was happening in his stride. The memory brought a bitter smile to Aoko's face. About the sleep that she missed out on that morning.
Yeah.
She was still not over it.
Right.
じゃ気を取り直してっと。宗十郎の疑問だけどね。魔術師もいろいろあって教会に属していない連中もいるの。こういった連中は教会の目を盗んでやりたい放題で利益目的で他の魔術師に喧嘩を売ってくる。
We assume.
あの
I
人
mean,
形の持ち主
they
もそ
have
の
to be
類。
if they're just attacking people like that.
I mean, again, you're making assumptions here, though.
Yeah.
Like, probably fair ones, but assumptions nonetheless.
True. Unless you had a reason to think they
そん
were
な
an
連中にとって
association mage.
私たちは都合のいい格好のカモなのよ。私たちは教会と協定関係にあるだけで門下ってわけじゃないから。私たちが殺されたところで
Right.
Kyokai wa
They're not
tasukete
coming to
kurenai shi
save
ne.
you, so.
でも魔術師が魔術を使うのは禁じてるんだろ
What?
What? Oh, you mean like in public?
Didn't we just tell you we practice it like all the fucking time?
Oh.
It's like literally all we do.
それが公にならないのなら教会は目をつむるわ。むしろ バレなければ魔術師同士の争いを奨
You
励し
can
てるぐらいよ。
absolutely fight
技術
with
も使わ
magic
ない
if
と錆びる
you're
って
careful
ね。
with it.
ま、私たちが襲われてるのはそれとは別の話で、単に土地を持ってるからなんだけど。
You don't own land.
Well,
Alice does, but
she probably has her family land since she has the crest now. So she probably owns her grandfather's workshop by this point.
well, in Alice's case, yes, this house, but like in
Yes.
general, you know, no.
まさか。この岬市一帯の管理地の権利を持ってるのよ。私とアリスは。
Ah, well,
How-
Alice is the second
Yeah.
owner of the city. I don't know why
Yeah,
Alice.
how are you included in that
Maybe the
precisely?
families agreed to split the duties?
管理地ってつまり土地の利権